Hello my friends, Paul here in the all new and unimproved, tiny, cramped RoJoBe Music Workshop. Okay, so I'm now embarking on a new project. I did promise in my last video about the shop update, major changes to the shop, that I would be getting back into the project and the videos, and here we are. So the project I have at the moment is these Bowlback Mandolins that I bought. I originally had 6 of these altogether. This was the first one I bought, and I was so impressed with it that I ended up buying 5 more from the same supplier. And they are beautiful, beautiful instruments. From what I can make out, these are all from around the 1970s. So, 50 plus years old. And as I said, I originally had 6. I've sold 3 of them, so I now have 3 left. So, the backstory of this one, I'm sorry, it's kind of echoey in here, I didn't realise. I hope it doesn't affect the sound too much. So, the backstory of this particular mandolin, as I said, this was the first one that I bought, and I actually converted it to left-handed for myself. But I did end up reconverting it back to right-handed for sale. And I did end up selling this mandolin to a nice guy called Miles. Hi Miles, if you're watching, hope you're well. So he bought this online through Facebook Marketplace, and I got it set up and shipped it out to him. And after a day or two, he contacted me and said there was a problem with this mandolin, in that the action at the 12th fret, which is round about where it joins the body, was very high, like 5 millimeters, which for an instrument this small is ridiculous, unplayable. So I got straight back to him and I said, right, detune all of the strings and send it back to me ASAP. And when it arrived back, I had a close look at it, and as he pointed out with photographs, the back of the neck here is pulling away from the body slightly. I don't know how well you can see that. Now, in all honesty, this is one that I had repaired before for the same problem, and I repaired it, but the problem has resurfaced, as it were. So it's the neck is kind of pulling away a little bit from the body here, causing it to rise up like this, and then obviously we've got a big dip in the middle, so subsequently high action. So, as I said, I got him to ship it back to me ASAP. I had a look at it and said, yeah, you're absolutely right. There is a problem with this mandolin. So, I shipped him out one of the other ones of these that I had in stock. And that one was actually priced a little bit higher than this, but I charged the guy no extra because this was my problem, my fault. So, I shipped out another one to him. It was slightly higher priced. And I did a little work to it before I shipped it out. I actually made a new nut because the one that was on there sorry, excuse me. The one that was on there was old and brittle and no good. So I actually made a new nut, and got the action nice and low at the 1st fret, and then I lowered the saddle to get the action nice and low at the 12th fret as well. And I took some time over it to make sure that it was right, and I got the action down to around about 2 millimeters across the board at the 12th fret, which is pretty much optimum. That's kind of where you want it. And I shipped it, got it all set up and everything, and shipped it to him. And as far as I'm aware, he's over the moon with it. As I said, the guy's name is Miles, very nice guy, not sure where he's from actually. but speaks good English, so from the West somewhere. And yeah, as far as I'm aware, he's happy with it. And if not, Miles, please get in touch and we will sort it out. That's the way I operate, okay? I'm not just one of those salesmen who, you know, as soon as the sale has happened, that's it, end of story. No, for me, it's the beginning. And if any customer who buys any instrument from me has any problem, I will resolve it one way or another. And in this instance, I got him to ship this one back to me, and I shipped him out another one after having done quite a bit of work to it to make sure the action was nice and low and there was no problem with the neck or anything like that, and I got it back to him. And as far as I'm aware, he's happy. And he's a beginner to all instruments. I'm not sure if he started on the easiest one, a mandolin, and particularly these bowlbacks, which are quite difficult to hold. And there's no strap buttons on these, so he's learning to play it, which is fantastic. So I've now got this one back in the workshop, and as I said, I have 3 of these mandolins left, and you know, there obviously is a problem with the neck. So as you can see, I've taken the strings off, although I've left them on here and put some tape over there because they're a blooming nightmare to get back on, these strings on these mandolins. They're really, really tricky. So I thought, rather than giving myself, you know, an hour's extra work, I'll just, you know, put some masking tape on there to hold the strings in place, coil them up there. They're out of my way there. And I've removed the tuners. And I've also subsequently removed the fretboard. I've got it just held on with rubber bands at the moment. So the fretboard is also removed. Now, I was surprised how cleanly this came off. I mean, I've scraped off all of the glue, but again, I'm not sure how well you'll see that, but there's absolutely no chip out whatsoever. This piece here is what goes on this support piece here, and that has actually it's kind of broken away, but that's good because that's a key to getting this thing back on in exactly the right position. So yeah, I mean, I have scraped off all of the glue, but there was no chip out, no tear out of the wood. It came off really, really nice and clean. I mean, there is just there's a kind of a divot, but that was already there. That's not something that happened when I pulled this fretboard off. And the neck as well, really, really clean. Again, no tear out, no chips, absolutely perfect. And again, I've scraped off all of the glue from here and all the way up the neck, and it's, you know, so it's ready to work on. So, what is the problem with this mandolin? Well, let's just take these rubber bands off out of the way, and I'll show you what is the problem with this mandolin. That's right, so that's those out of the way. So I need a straight edge, and let's go with that as well. Okay, so so I had to remove the fretboard so that I could get a better look of what was going on here, and you know, I did all that off camera. I've shown fretboard removals many times in previous videos, so I didn't show this one. So if we take a straight edge, okay, and put along, I mean, the good thing is I've removed the nut as well, so I can go all the way along here. And if I put there, it's kind of difficult to show, but I think you can probably see that certainly this area, there's quite a gap under there, quite a big gap. So it's touching at the top there, it's touching on the body down there, but literally from probably here to about here, there's a gap all the way along under there. So, you know, on an instrument this small with such a small neck, that's a problem. Oop. Got my string caught up in my microphone. So if we just have a look at this part here, so I can't use that long straight edge, so I've got this spatula thing which has got a straight side on it. So if we look, oh dear, this is hard to do. Okay, so if we look there on the actual body, there is not a problem there. That is dead straight all the way up that portion of the body, so there's no problem there. If we have a look at the actual neck itself, so this is the neck joint, so we'll go from there and all the way up the neck. There isn't a problem there. That is perfectly straight. So the neck is not bowed. That's what I was worried about, that the neck itself was kind of, you know, bowed like this, but it's not, it's dead straight. So the problem is here at the joint. So it goes straight here and then the neck kind of comes up. The neck itself is straight, but it comes up. So this needs a neck reset. I basically have to take the neck out, clean up all the glue and everything, and then put it back in and kind of angle it back, or try to get it dead straight really, but there would be nothing wrong with a tiny angle backwards. Okay, so we need this whole plane to be completely level. At the moment there's effectively a dip in the middle here, and it stretches about this distance, well, more like that, which is, well, it's the actual length of the neck. So we've got a dip here, so this neck has to be removed and reset, either dead flat or even a tiny angle backwards. Very tiny amount. So this is a neck reset on a Bowlback Mandolin. Quite a project. And of the other two mandolins that I have left, the same as these, I've had a close look at those, and one of the others also needs a neck reset. As far as I'm aware, it looks as though it's going to be the same problem as this one, but again I will have to remove the fretboard to get a proper look at that one. But I have a feeling that it's going to be the exact same problem as this one, where the neck itself is perfectly straight, but it needs resetting. It needs to be removed, tilted back ever so slightly, and then placed back in and glued back in. So that's the other one. So we've got two with the same problem, I think. I'm pretty sure that's the same problem on the other one. Now, the third one, I'm not going to show it right now, but the third one has a similar but worse problem. So on the third one, I think we've got the same problem again with, you know, the neck angle, but if you look down here on that third one, the head is twisted kind of that way. So the neck itself is not just, you know, angled up, but it's twisted at the headstock end. That's what it looks like. And again, I will have to remove the fretboard from that one to get a proper look. But it's looking as though the neck is actually twisted. Now that's a much bigger problem. That's going to take a little bit more surgery. But I don't really know, you know, what the extent of the issue is on that one. I will have to remove the fretboard to get a better look, but that will be another project further down the road. So this, I'm gonna, you know, record all of the work I do on this for the neck reset. So it's going to be, you know, quite a few videos, and they're going to be pretty detailed to show how I'm going to do the neck reset on this instrument. And it's going to be the same job on the second mandolin, so I'm not going to film that one. I'm just going to film it on this one, because it's going to be the exact same process. However, the third one with the twisted neck, I will most probably record that. Again, I will do what I did with this one off camera. I'll remove the fretboard and have a close look and see what's what. And then I probably will make another video project out of that one. But as I said, That's a while down the road yet. Now, there are a few different ways you can remove a neck from an instrument, whether it's a mandolin or a guitar, ukulele, banjo, everything. First of all, it depends on how the neck is held into the body. And this particular one, like most others, it has a single dovetail joint. Some of them, I've come across one before, is actually a classical guitar, and that was the neck of that was held on with 2 wooden dowel pins through the neck block into the block and just into the neck and just glued. Oh dear, that's cheap and nasty. Most of the good instruments will have this type of joint. Guitars have these. Acoustic guitars, and you know, this is a good quality instrument. It's been well built, but when I did the repair on this, I don't know if it was like it before, but you know, it needs a neck reset. And certainly the other one, which I haven't done any work like that on, needs a neck reset. So it seems to be a fairly ongoing problem with these particular instruments. I mean, you know, the neck is very, very narrow, and even this way, there's not much meat there. So they do have a potential to bow, to bend, especially under the tension of 8 strings tuned up to a high pitch. Heck of a lot of tension on these instruments, a heck of a lot more than you might imagine. Which can, as I said, it can bow the neck this way, or it can actually pull the neck out of the joint, as in this case, pull the neck forward and create basically the same problem. So, how are we doing for time? Okay. So, as I said, there are a few different ways to remove a neck from an instrument. And the best method to use is heat and moisture to soften the glue, to help, you know, removal of the neck. Now, as many of you will have seen before, when I remove bridges and fretboards, I haven't got it here, but I use just an ordinary clothes iron and put on top of the fretboard or the bridge, you know, keep it on there for a couple of minutes to get some heat in there, and then get something like one of these, but usually smaller, and put underneath and, you know, pry it off. Well, that's not something I can do with this. You know, it's the heat would just be going across the top here. And also I risk damaging all of the finish here and, you know, making a real mess. So I have to make a gadget, instrument, piece of kit to help get heat and moisture inside this joint to help removal of the neck. So basically what I have to do, normally you would just, on these 2 corners here, you would drill a small hole down here in the corner, here and here, and then you get heat and moisture inside there, and you know, that helps to soften the glue and you can pull the neck out. Now with this one, I'm probably going to do that, drill a hole here and here, but also here and here, down, straight down into the joint, and then, as I said, get heat and moisture inside that joint to help me to remove the neck. So first of all, I have to make a piece of equipment to do that job. Now this is something I've been wanting to do for quite a long time, and should have done it a long time ago, really. I've done quite a few neck removals without this tool, and so far, you know, I've managed to do the job. But this one, you can see that the joint in there is very tight, very precise. So to just put heat on top is not going to, you know, get the heat and moisture inside. So I've got to make a tool that I've wanted for a long time to do this job. So what do I need to make this, I'm going to say tool, gadget, gizmo, piece of equipment? What do I need to make this? Well, it's this. Okay, this is this is the main item. So this is a cheap stovetop kettle, which, you know, has the whistle on it when it's boiling. So just a very cheap tin kettle, a stovetop one, not electric. So I need that. I need a length of silicone hose, which I already have here. So I bought this kettle, but it was really cheap, you know, like a couple of dollars, a couple of quid. I already had this hose. This is actually from the compressor from one of my airbrush kits, but I'm just borrowing it. I'll put it back, I promise. So a length of silicone hose, and I have here a brass connector, and that's for one end. And then for the other end, I've got one of these. So this is an adapter for inflating footballs and the like. So it, you know, this needle is, or needle part of it, is about, well, it's like just under 2 millimeters thick. And so it has, focus. So it has, I don't know if you can see that. It's struggling to focus, but there's a hole in the end. So this is a tube, so it goes right through. So there's a hole in the end of that tube, but there's also one on the side. Can you see that? Try and get a little closer. So there's no, it's not going to focus. So there's a hole on the side and also at the end. Now I'm not sure what the purpose of that is for inflating footballs and stuff, but for what I'm going to use this for, this is ideal, having a hole at the end and at the side. Right, so I have the kettle, the silicone hose, the brass connector, the football inflator adapter. I have an 8mm spanner, a pair of pliers, and a couple of rubber bands. Oh, and also my heat gun. So, let me just think how I'm going to set this up. And incidentally, when I come to use it, obviously a kettle, you know what kettles are used for. So I also have my electric hot plate. And yeah, so here we go. I'm going to start to make this piece of equipment. So let me just get the camera in a good position for you to see what I'm doing. Just zoom in a little bit. Okay, so the football inflation adapter, I've actually got a few of these, so I've already got one put in the end of the hose. So what I need to do, oh, the other thing I've got for making this bit of kit is various hose clamps. So these are just the spring ones that you squeeze together, put on the hose and then release it. So I've got this box of hose clamps from 6mm to 22mm. So I've got the football inflation adapter in that end of the hose, in one end of the hose. So I need to now put a clamp on there, and I think that's probably going to be an 8mm clamp. So I'm going to feed that on from the other end. I think that's the right size. So I'm just feeding that clamp onto the hose, run it all the way through. Okay, and that's going to go on there to hold that adapter in the hose there. So I'm just going to use my pliers to put that over the end there. I'm hoping that's the right size. Okay, yeah, that seems to be right. Okay, so that's that now clamped on that end. Okay, so I'm going to put this brass adapter in the other end. Now this is actually, it's a little tap, so you can turn it on and off. That's the on position, so it's in line with the adapter. So it's now on or open, so you can see right through there. So that's open. So I'm now going to remove this part. I don't need that. So that's what the 8mm spanner is for. So I'm just going to take the nut off the top. And take that off. Okay, so that's it like that. I'm not sure if I'm going to, no, I was thinking about putting the nut back on there, but I won't. But I'll put those in a safe place. For now, I'll just put them in that box of clamps, just for safekeeping. So I need another hose clamp because I'm going to put this in here. So let me just find another hose clamp. I think this will be a 7mm. Pretty sure that's the right size for that one. Okay, so I've got the hose clamp on there, and now I need to put this in here, but it's a tight fit. So what I'm going to do is use my heat gun just to heat up the end of that hose. Not too much because it will melt, but just enough to soften it, so that I can put this brass adapter or brass coupling, if you like, in that hose. Now, I shouldn't put gloves on for this really, because this gets pretty hot, but it should be okay. So I'm just heating the end of that hose just to soften it. Shouldn't need too much. And a little bit more. Let's just try that. Okay. Ow, that's hot. That's really hot. Oh man. Let me get some gloves quick. Yeah, that's really hot. It's got to be quick before that cools down and stiffens again. But I'm just trying to push that hose on as much as possible. There we go. Right, so that hose is now all the way on there. And are you kidding me? Where's the clamp gone? Has that clamp come off? Oh dear, okay. Did I even put it on? I can't remember. Sure I did. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just take this one off and then I'll put the other clamp over that. Hopefully it should go over. So I want to clamp on that end as well. So I'll just remove that one. Hopefully put that one right over. Come on, over you go. Well, I'm sure I put that clamp on there. Okay, well let me try actually and use one of these 8mm, which maybe that will work. So let's put that one over there. Okay, let's try that one. Maybe that will work. No, damn it, it's too loose. Okay, I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I did put the clamp on. I thought I had, and it's fallen off onto the floor. That's not so good. Right, so I'm gonna have to take that back off and do it again, which is a blooming nuisance. But there you go. Okay. Right. Right, let's get that clamp on there again and we'll redo that. Okay, try again. So put the hose back on there, brass adapter. Okay, right, that's on there. So now I'll put the clamp back on. Yeah, so that one's a smaller clamp. That's a 7mm, I think. Yeah. Sorry, you can't see what I'm doing. Right, okay, so that's now clamped on there. That's pretty good. So I'll just put the other one back on the other end. Okay, so that's now that one clamped in that end, and that one clamped in that end. Right, so I've now got this silicone hose with the football inflator on one end and this brass connector on the other. And it is still open, good. Right, I'm going to get my heat gun out of the way before I burn myself on that. Just put that down on the floor to cool down. Right, so what I need to do now is put this end, the brass connector, into this hole in here. Now, when I first bought this kettle, this adapter would not fit in that hole. The hole was slightly too small. So off camera, I've drilled that out already. So it now fits into that hole quite nicely. Just push it all the way through. There we go. So that's now in there. Now, what I was thinking about doing originally was actually soldering this brass connector into this hole. I mean, it goes right through and it sort of sticks out that side. So what I wanted to do was to actually solder this in place. But having thought about it, this metal here is a different metal to this. This is brass, obviously. This, I don't know, some kind of cheap generic tin. And also the wall of this tube is much thicker than this metal. This is very, very thin. So because they're different types of metal and different thicknesses, I'm pretty sure that trying to solder it would not work. It would not hold. So what I'm going to do, that's pushed all the way through there. Just see if I can get it in a little bit more. So all I'm going to do is put one of those clamps on the end of here. So for that I think I'll need a 6mm, the smallest one. And I'm just going to put the clamp on the end of there, just to hold it in place. So let's get my pliers and the clamp and just put that on the end of there, like so. Put it on a bit more. Right, so that's now got a clamp on the end of that brass fitting to hold that in place. So that's not going to pull out. Now, so this is the setup. This is now ready to use. So, you know, I have the kettle filled with water and then I bring it up to the boil and the steam will go up here through this brass connector all the way through this tube and out of the end of there. So, as I said, I'm going to be drilling holes in these two corners and probably these two corners as well. And then I'm going to stick this into the holes. Like a minute or two for each one so that you've got steam going into those holes. So then we've got heat and moisture. Okay, so like I said, drill holes here and bring this kettle up to the boil so that steam comes out the end of this nozzle and the side. So putting that into these holes all the way in will allow heat and moisture to get inside this joint, softening up the glue to help me remove the neck. So let me just turn around and zoom out. So that is my bit of kit for neck removal, and I'm so glad that I've finally got this done. Something I've been meaning to do for a long time, and I got this idea, by the way, from a guy called Jerry Rosa of Rosa String Works, an American guy who's been doing the kind of work that I do for 45 years, and he has actually retired now. He does still do some of this work, but I got the idea of many things that I do, including this, from Jerry Rosa of Rosa String Works. And this, I've seen him using his version of this, and it just works so well. So this is what I'm going to be using. I'm not going to start that job just yet, but I just wanted to show you guys what I needed to make to help me remove this neck, to do the neck reset. And there it is, my gizmo for neck removal. I'm obviously gonna test it. One thing I should mention actually is, as any of you know anything about boiling water and steam, the very last thing you want to combine that with is pressure. Pressure and steam are a lethal combination. Be very, very careful. So these cheap kettles, you know, they don't hold any pressure. The lid is not tight fitting, so you know that will release some pressure. This flip top is not tight fitting. Incidentally, that's what the rubber bands are for, just to hold this. I'll wrap it around here just to hold it down so it doesn't, you know, flap open. But there's, you know, if any pressure builds up, it will come out the lid, it could come out of there. And you know, because it's all coming through this tiny little gizmo at the end here, if everything else here was sealed, if this was sealed, I'd get, you know, a massive amount of pressure build up with steam. And also where I put this clamp on here, this clamp on here, and this clamp on here, they are not resistant to pressure. So if pressure does build up, you know, any one of those could pop off, and you know, I'm not going to have a problem. However, because it's steam, I will be using gloves and possibly some face protection as well, just as a, you know, added precaution. But like I said, these types of kettles, often they have a small hole in the lid as well. But I'm going to test this as it is. You know, if I see a little bit of steam coming out the lid, coming out from here, that's good, because I don't want pressure to build up with this setup. Like I said, pressure and steam mixed together, lethal. Beware. So that's my tool made. The next step will be, once I've, you know, just tested this out by putting water in it, put it on the hot plate, get it up to temperature, making sure that there's no, you know, pressure build up anywhere. Once I've tested all that, then the next job will be drilling the holes in here and testing my bit of kit out, see how well it works. I've got pretty high hopes, because as I said, it's the same setup as Jerry Rosa uses, as well as other people, and it just works. So I'm going to try it for myself, something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and here it is. So that will be coming in part 2 of this project, which is Bowlback Mandolin Neck Reset. And I'm kind of looking forward to it. It's a bit of a job to do, but you know, if the neck comes out easily enough or cleanly enough, that's the hardest part. Once that's done, it's, I mean, you know, the rest of it is tricky to remove all the glue and possibly shave off a little bit of wood here and there to get that neck to come back before gluing it back in place. That can be a little bit tricky, but it's not difficult. You just got to be quite accurate. And as I said, these rubber bands, if necessary, I'll just wrap them around here, you know, just to keep this down if it needs it. I'm not sure if it will or not. Okay, so as I said, part 2 will be testing this bit of kit out and seeing if I can remove the neck from this mandolin. And I'm quite looking forward to it. Hope you are too. In the meantime, please look after yourselves, look after each other. We will see you soon. Peace out.